Hi there, and welcome to the Skylight Books author reading series. If you'd like to learn more about us and our many upcoming author events, please visit skylightbooks.com, where you can browse our inventory, buy books, and join our Friends with Benefits Club. You can also follow us on Twitter, Tumblr, and Facebook. To speak to a real live bookseller like me, please call 323-660-1175. Thanks for your support, and enjoy.
Many people that have supported me over this writing journey, and it was especially important to me to do this with Right Girl, because I wouldn't be here if it weren't for Right Girl. My first book I wrote while I was a mentor with Right Girl, and became a curriculum director there when I lived in LA before, and then we moved to Brooklyn, and now we've just moved back. But way back then, I was plugging away on my first book, Trafficked, and I was going to all these writing workshops and, working with my beautiful mentee, Romelyn, who inspired me every day that I worked with her, and she... it's an incredible organization. I feel like the mentors get so much from the mentees, and hopefully we give a lot to them too. But, and as you can see from the mentees who came before me, they're just incredible. You can't believe it. The writing they do is just like mind-blowingly good. And, the motto is never underestimate the power of a girl and her pen. And I think that organizations like Right Girl are what we need in today's world. So that was very important to me, and so great to and so definitely, if you have a teen, the neat thing is, especially if you have a teen who's fired up about writing, there's all kinds of experiments throughout, but also they get to see actual teen writing that really speaks to their experience. So this is not a love letter. It's my second book, and it's based on a very difficult time in my life in which one of my closest friends went missing. And he went missing about 2 weeks before we graduated from high school. And right away, we didn't know if he'd been the victim of a hate crime or what. He just went for a run. He showed up by a party where I was at, and I was in the backyard, and someone said, "Hey, Kim, your friend, he's out front, you gotta go say hi." So I went into the front, and my friend Al was there, and he's like, "Hey, how you doing? I just wanted to say hi, I'm in the middle of a run." And I'm like, "Why don't you just stay? I think you actually really want to stay, you don't want to do this run." And he's like, no, I really want to do the run. So he said, I'm going to go down to the river, and then I'm going to go home, and then I'll come back. So I was like, okay, fine. And then he never made it home. So we searched for him for days in the woods, and during that time, I started talking to him. And what I found is that that's not so unusual when someone drops out of your life suddenly. They go missing, it's a sudden breakup and you don't see them again, or a death. All of those things, people start in their mind imagining the person, and your mind just can't cope with the sudden loss of someone without any kind of expectation that they would be leaving soon. So I wrote this book with that vein of where she's telling him an account of what's going on, what they're doing to find him, but she sends him messages. And so I'm going to read you the first couple pages, and then I'll hear any questions you guys have. This is not a love letter, so don't get all excited for nothing. Maybe I should write you one to go with all the letters you've written me and fold it into perfect little airplanes. But I never wrote you one before, and it would be seriously bad luck to start now. Chris, where are you? How did you not come home last night? I don't care where you went or what you're doing. I just want to know if you're okay. We all do. I mean, who does this? I'm starting to feel kind of weird. Desperate, if you want to know the truth. It's like when I get a mosquito bite. You're always telling me to leave it alone, but I can't stop itching till it bleeds. Right now, you're my mosquito bite. Isn't that romantic? I thought I'd write and let you know what we're doing to find you. Maybe it'll help me figure out where you are. So until you turn up, this is an account. I know, that's the unsexiest word ever. But if you want a sexy love letter, you're going to have to come back home and get it. 7:01 a.m. Saturday, my house. I'll start this account with first thing this morning. I wake up to someone banging on my back door. I open my eyes. The pale light of early morning is drifting through my small basement window. Of course, I think it's you at the door, and I gotta admit, I'm kind of pissed. I don't know why you'd knock when you have a key, but it can't be anyone else. I tug on my jean shorts and put on a bra under the tangerine t-shirt you bought me to match my hair. I wore it to bed. Yes, I admit I was missing you just a little bit. More knocking. For God's sake, I'm coming. I open my bedroom door, step into the hall, and bump into a stack of magazines which tips over, blocking the hallway. I climb over them. Seriously, if the big West Coast earthquake ever happens, I'll be buried alive under a pile of Us and People magazines. Jessie? My mom is making her way down the stairs in her old pink bathrobe, gripping the railing like her knees hurt. What's going on? She sounds groggy, probably because of the sleeping pills. She looks worse than normal. Greasy hair, dark circles under her eyes, her tired, sagging face. I'm worried about her at that moment, not you. It's okay, Mom, I say. Go back to sleep, I got it. Okay, she mumbles and heads back up the stairs. I navigate around the piles of laundry and random towers of my mom's stuff, finally arrive at the back door, which I swing open. Nobody's there. I stand with the door wide open. Really? Did you really wake up and leave? I dig out the corners of my eyes for what you call sleep surprises and think about how we both get the same sick pleasure from morning crusties. You told me you love the feeling when you dig them out and they scrape against the corner of your eye, and right away I realized that's what I like too. This break is really stupid. In so many ways we're perfect for each other. Anyway, it's a week before graduation and we should be together. I decide to stop being so stubborn and go make up, give you a big old wet kiss, and forget about needing some perspective. I slide into my flip-flops, step into the yard, and walk to the side gate. There's a strong pulp mill smell in the air, like a stew of farts, rotten eggs, used athletic socks, and yes, plus a little sugar. The gate squeals as I throw it open. I expect to see you walking up the incline along our house to the front lawn, but nobody's there. I listen for your truck. All I hear are the neighbor's dogs going crazy, barking inside her house. Are you in your truck already? Are you going to leave again? I take off, running up the path, my flip-flops slapping against the gravel. I catapult myself around the corner of the house, ready to throw myself at you, only you're not there. Instead, I see Josh pushing his bike past the giant tire in the middle of our lawn. The back of his white t-shirt is soaked with sweat. What's he doing at my house at this time in the morning? Were you running with him? Did you fall? Are you hurt? Josh? He turns. Sweat is dripping down his face. His blue eyes are rimmed with red like he's been crying. He pulls off his helmet. His curly blonde hair is so drenched it falls down like an air mattress without air. He runs a hand through it and swallows. You hear from Chris yet? I say something like, why or what? He's missing, he says, as if he's reminding me, like that's something I forget. Missing? The word missing echoes inside me, reverberates against the internal walls of my body like an empty chamber. A guy like you doesn't go missing. You're responsible, smart, athletic, sexy, funny, sensitive, kind. You are hundreds of words, but you are not missing. Right, I'll stop there. So, I'd like to take questions from you guys. Anything that you are wondering about the book? Some people really have asked that, like in a real way.
How did you have the full idea of the book before you started writing?
I did, but then it changed. I had an idea of what the questions were that I wanted to explore and who I wanted to introduce into the story. And what kind of issues I needed to talk about. Like, I wanted to talk about small town violence and racism, and so I wanted to have that be a theme that wove its way through. And I wanted to talk about how the natural world intermixes with the life in those kind of places. And so we have the river going through the book in several scenes. And I knew that I wanted to talk about a few incidences in my childhood that were really hard and put those in the narrative. I like to use a lot of my own experiences but then change them. So, fictionalize them to some extent. And I changed what happened in the ending of the book. The fictional story is slightly different. Yeah.
Do you find yourself reacting to current events and making changes in the book as things are going on in this country?
Well, one thing that I definitely wanted to make sure that I got right was my how I dealt with white privilege and bias. I wanted to make sure that that was very clear. And so I had several sensitivity readers read the book, and I listened to their feedback, and I think that's a real key thing, that a lot of people get sensitivity readers and it's not convenient, whatever they say, and so they're like, oh, do I really need to worry about that? And for me, I really want this book to be the kind of book that every kid can read and feel embraced by, I guess.
I have two questions. First, how do you handle the value of writing a fiction book? So, like you, that have so many storylines, information and chapters, and also what happened to your friend in the story?
So we searched for him for the we searched for him for several days in the woods, and then the land search was called off because we didn't find anything. And I remember when I stood, when the first day of the search started. First of all, let's dial back a little bit. When he first went missing, I was suntanning in the morning after that party, and a couple of our guy friends came up and they're like, hey, have you seen Al? And I was like, what? And it was just, he's such a dependable guy that it just didn't seem possible that he wouldn't have come home. I feel that right away I knew something was wrong. And but it took 2 days for the cops to start looking. 48 hours.
Wow.
So that's a really long time for anybody. I mean, imagine, there are all these different things that could have happened, and I think for all of us, we were like, well, he could have fallen and broken his leg. Like, we need to get the search happening right away. And they were like, he probably ran away or took off, and we were like, no, he would never be that. So that was just right from the beginning. Racial bias was a real element, I think, because he was one of the only African American teens, people really in our town. I mean, because it was northern British Columbia. Now, I set the book in the Northwest because I felt like the demographics were similar, and having spent quite a bit of time in the Northwest, I felt like the issues of bias and white privilege and were very similar. So we did a land search, and finally they were like, okay, I guess we'll look after a couple days, and it was pouring rain, and I was a pretty poor kid. I didn't have any money, and I had one pair of shoes. And so I remember that because throughout the following days I still had to wear these soaking wet shoes. And anyone who has muddy soaked shoes, like, I'll never forget the feeling of that, but not that mattered to me, but that's just part of the sensory experience that I tried to remember when I wrote the book. I would have searched for him for weeks with my wet, muddy shoes. But what they did as we started the search, we had like about 200 people show up. It was a pretty big crowd for a search. And the guy at the front, was something about how he acted seemed a little cavalier to me. He had these headphones that my friend had been wearing, and he had a Walkman, and so they're the bigger kind of headphones, and he kind of swung them and said, "Okay, we're looking for something like this," and like it was you might want a piece of the wire, or maybe it's a piece of the headphone, and he just kind of swung them, and that moment stuck in my mind, like, why are you swinging those headphones? And then he continued on. He said, or we're looking for a piece of clothing, maybe some blood on a bush. And I was like, as he's going on. And then he says, but we're not looking for a body. And that moment for me was very shocking, because I remember I even gasped a little, because I was like, I'm looking for his alive body. Yes, I am. I am looking for an alive body. I'm looking for my friend, who I believe is still alive. And of course, when someone says we're not looking for a body, then the entire search, I'm looking for his body. And so thinking, oh my gosh, is he dead? And so I started talking to him and sending him messages. Hey, you think you could, can you hear me? Do you hear the intensity of my desire to find you? Are you somewhere? And maybe we could just have like a little brain connection going here. And you could tell me where you are. And it was just silence. I didn't hear anything during that whole search. But I kept sending out requests for a little bit of feedback, and so that maybe I would look somewhere and I would find the evidence, and then we would find him and he would be safe. But that's not what happened. So after a few days, they called off the land search, and then they did a search of the river, and they didn't find him there either. And so then I was like, oh, someone's holding him somewhere, or maybe he's okay. Like, we've looked everywhere. His body hasn't been found. He's probably okay. Or maybe is okay. So there was nothing else to. They said, well, it's possible if he had fallen in the river, or if he was pushed, or if he jumped, his body could be out to sea. So that was still a possibility. And so throughout that whole summer, I started to. I ran a lot, almost every day, and I would picture him running beside me, because we used to run together. We were on the cross-country team together, and he was faster than me, but he was the kind of guy who would always slow down, and, anybody who, he just was there to cheer you on. And so I pictured him being there, and I would picture him talking to me and joking with me, and so even though I knew he wasn't, I never thought, oh, his ghost has come. I just thought, oh, I'm just imagining him, because I, had an imagination, and I imagined things all the time, so it wasn't strange to imagine him. And then September started, and I decided to take the year off of school. And so about 3 weeks into September, his body was found. 2 brothers found him. And so that's how it happened in the real story. And we never knew, was he pushed? Did he jump? And so that was something that I wanted to look at all possible options. And so that's what made me decide to write the book. Yeah. That doesn't totally give away the ending.
How do you develop a new character that you're writing from?
The way I develop a new character, actually I'm just developing a new character for my next book now, so I just start to think of something unique about the character, and one thing, this new character, in the book for this actually was different, because I was basing a lot of the characters on real people. So it's sort of a mesh of me and real people. I'm hoping they don't know who they are. With my first book, Traffic, though, I actually kept the names of the people. They were students or people I met in Moldova when I was researching my book because it's about a modern day slave in America who's kept in the home of a family. And so the members of that family were some of my students that I'd met, that one of them I suspected might have a modern day slave. She had indicated several things to me, but I never found out for sure. But she's definitely an iffy kind of person. It was very hard to figure it out, but I based that character on her, and I told my editor at the time, I said, it's the same name as the person I'm basing it on. Do you think that we should change it? And she's like, nah, it doesn't matter. They'll never know. So, so I didn't keep the female name. She was married to a different male student that I had at a different time. So anyway, that's how I made those characters. But for This Is Not a Love Letter, it's a little bit more of a mesh of me and different people I've known. And then the one I'm creating now, I had an idea of a girl that does impressions, and she's been bullied very badly, and she has to homeschool because she starts doing impressions, and she becomes so good at doing impressions that then when she goes back to school, she does an impression, so she's not actually being her true self. And so I thought that would be a really interesting, kind of quirky, fun character, because I wanted to do someone, I just needed a little bit more lightness in my next book. So this kid's, I needed to, because I'm pretty, I laugh lots, and I love humor, and so I wanted to have that in the next book that I wrote, even though it's probably going to be about bullying. I'll have a little bit of lightness in it too.
Do you find it easier to write in Brooklyn or Los Angeles?
Oh, Brooklyn. In a really big way. Because I worked out of the Brooklyn Writers Space, and that was an amazing place because, first of all, Brooklyn is filled with writers, and they're all novelists, right? I mean, there's some screenplay writers here, but here, when I'm like, yeah, I read a book, people will say, oh, you should make a movie. Book, blah. Yeah. But in Brooklyn, there are a lot of writers. I mean, one thing is, though, there, if you write books also, it's like, oh yeah, my friend writes a book too, and but the great thing is that when you work at the Brooklyn Writers Space, they have one area where it's all carols, and then they have an area that's coffee kind of a hangout area. So you'd go in there and the intensity of the creative focus in there was amazing. And then you come out and have some tea, but then go back in this place that was sort of buzzing with that energy. But also I just feel like walking down the street, because you're always with humanity. You go in the subway, you are always looking in the eyes of people, and you're seeing their pain. You see people cry on the street. You see people laughing. You see little arguments. You hear conversations constantly. And it has a certain fire, a creative fire that is hard to match here, because, you're walking on streets where there aren't barely any people, or you're in your car more. However, I do like the sunshine. So every place, if you're craving people, you can go to people places here. It's just in Brooklyn you can't get away from the people. It's always a part of you, Yeah.
So when you're coming up with particular metaphors for certain spots in your book, just thinking about the reading that you began with, instead of the air mattress being filled up.
Mm-hmm.
Is it, oversimplifying it, but is it just sort of like, oh, that popped in my head?
Yeah. I never ever force metaphors. It just it comes through the voice of the character. Though I have to say, when I am writing a character, one of the biggest things that I do that I find super helpful is I get into the body of the character, and I think of how they walk. I think of how, are they wearing tight boots? I really try to feel their physical body and how they move, and all of that, and I find the movement of a character creates the voice. So then sometimes things will come out and I'll be like, whoa, that's fascinating. I never could have planned that, but that character said that. Yeah.
So I know you're interested in body language. But I wondered what got you so interested in doing that for your master's work. Was it like, did it grow out of what you were writing, or did you, like, what made you decide to pursue that and looking at it with like?
Right. So for me, I think having been, Melanie and I were in our master's program, which actually we did just graduate, so we're finished it now. Yay! And I did my critical thesis. You have to do a critical thesis and a creative thesis, and I did my critical thesis on body language in fiction. And because we're always taught, don't do clenched fists, don't do that. But I wanted to look at, well, how do we create the dynamics of power in our writing through body language? So, for example, how do we move beyond cliche but still trigger the reader to that feeling? So, for example, things like very innate things, like you stand in a doorway. Just imagine if you read that in fiction, someone's standing in a doorway. So for you, as the reader, you'll get triggered because our limbic systems are automatically triggered by someone blocking an exit. So we get nervous for that main character. So there are things like that, or like people will, like, you're feeling uncomfortable, so they slide their leg, someone stops and they're still talking, but the person who's in the passenger side opens the door and slides their leg out. And then they're kind of uncomfortable. They're ready to flee, right? But we don't say that. We can just do that. So I feel like it's shorthand for triggering the reader. And also I'm just super interested because I feel like it's an unspoken language that's really important to know what it means. And learning all about body language for my master's, it also just helped me have so much more empathy for people, because we all get nervous and we all do these little things. Like one thing that I learned, did you know that we all have a pacifying response? So all day long we're pacifying ourselves in different ways, and we generally have the same kind of thing that we always do. So some people like rub their legs. That will be a pacifying response where you repeated rubbing arm. Some people air out their shirt. Some people like rub their chin. I do the chin thing, like I have a beard. Some people like pick. Obama often puts his finger in his eye, like he does that. So it was really interesting looking at various people and what are their standard sort of pacifying body language, and then seeing that my kids now laugh because I'm like, I can tell when you're lying. You cannot lie to me anymore, and I'm pretty good. Like it's funny, but because we pacify more when we get nervous, unless we don't care if we lie. But most of us care. It doesn't feel good to lie. So anyway, that's why I've always found it fascinating, and so then I had this opportunity. And who's incredible? Who's one of the very best writers, period, but he's so incredible at body language, is Jason Reynolds. Has anybody read Jason Reynolds? Okay, so he wrote All American Boys with Brendan Keeley. One of the most incredible books. I highly, highly recommend it. And then for younger kids, he wrote Ghost. But All American Boys is like for every adult, every person. It's such an incredible book, and it's based around a police beating of a kid, and an African American kid, and it jumps from that kid's perspective to a white kid who witnesses it and has always looked up to this cop as a role model, and he's best friends with the guy's brother. So and trying to unpack that, you've done all these good things for me, but you did this awful, horrible thing. And so they go back and forth to that, and how do we make those decisions around situations of this nature? So it's an incredible book. You guys should all read it. Yeah.
First, I want to say, go back about the physical things that create the character. And it reminds me of when I was studying acting in Shakespeare in England. And the more way to breathe in that character is to put the shoes on.
Right.
First.
Yeah.
Instead of the more American way is to get through your,
Yeah.
So
that's so acting, actors often call that method acting, where they get into, but the clothes the clothes that your character chooses are really important for how they move, and also their emotions in their body, because that changes everything. And so then through that comes voice. Yeah.
I think you said that you meet with your editor every day, and what happens? Did you say
No. That does not happen. I don't meet with my editor almost ever. But
every day?
so no,
Nobody.
I don't. But I'll finish a full draft. Okay, so you write your book, you send it to your editor, and then they give you a generalized idea of what you need to change, and then you rewrite the whole book, and then you send it back, and then they get more and more specific until finally you go to copy editing. So with This Is Not a Love Letter, I probably wrote it about 8 times before it was. Before I got an agent with this book, because this is a good little story about not giving up. If any of you are writers or any kind of thing, actors, whatever. With my first book, which did quite well, I was like, I'm going to have no problems with the second book. And then my agent quit agenting. And she passed me off to a different agent who hated everything I wrote, including this book. And and I was like, oh gosh, I guess I'm just a terrible writer. I guess I gotta go get my MFA to become a better writer, And so instead of realizing maybe it's just that agent. So anyway, when I got into my master's program, I was like, they were really enthusiastic about accepting me. Maybe it's not so bad. So I sent it out to 3 of the top literary agents who sold the most of that year, and they all wanted it. So I was like, what? So what was so interesting is even doesn't matter even if you've had some success, it's easy to be like, oh no, I guess I'm just not good anymore. I was like, and then it went, I did one revision with her, and then she sent it out to editors, and it went to auction, which means 3 different houses wanted it. And we took a preempt offer for it because this particular editor sent me the nicest letter. So it just shows you, her writing this beautiful letter to me, I was like, oh, I just want to work with her. So the point is, I almost gave up. I didn't really give up. I kept writing the whole time, but I started to doubt myself. So it's really important to not. I now learned my lesson. I hope that won't happen again. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, all right, so that's good. Wait, before I say, so just, I encourage you guys to buy the Right Girl book, and also I'm going to give $10 from every book I sell of mine at this event to Right Girl. So, all right, thank you.
You've been listening to the Skylight Books author reading series. Don't forget, you can listen to this and all of our other great podcasts at skylightbooks.com. Thanks again for stopping by, and we hope to see you soon.